did I just crap myself? I thought on a random day in 7th grade, on a bathroom trip, in the middle of doing my homework. To my relief, it was actually my first period. But where was the bright red blood? Surely this couldn't be a period. I thought I was so prepared to get it. After all, my mom read me a book about it. My friends at school were all talking about getting theirs. I thought I knew what to expect. But instead, I felt confused, embarrassed, and out of control of my body, a feeling so many of us experience. Even though I knew what a period was, it's different for everyone, especially your first one. But we don't talk about it enough. We're too afraid to. Periods and menstruation are still highly stigmatized topics of conversation, and there's so much about the menstrual cycle that we're never taught about, in part due to the misogynistic systems we live in, as well as how these have conditioned us to feel uncomfortable with these topics. What I want to do with you all today is dive deep into these fears together, reframing this taboo topic as something celebratory, beautiful, and a way to honor and love ourselves, not just for menstruators, but for everyone here in this room. This starts by acknowledging that not all women menstruate, and not all who menstruate are women. This encompasses those with chronic health challenges who may not experience a period, as well as is inclusive of transgender, non-binary, and gender non-conforming individuals in this conversation. It's so crucial that we use inclusive language around menstruation when we understand how this community is impacted by gender dysphoria, especially around menstruation. I also want to invite the men and non-menstruators into this conversation and express the need of you all in helping us to normalize these conversations. It wasn't until I was in college when I learned about the 4 phases of the menstrual cycle, or that there even are 4 phases. And I'm sure many of you in this room are learning that there are 4 phases of the menstrual cycle for the first time here today. When you hear menstruation, you probably think of periods, blood, tampons, cramps, mood swings, even craving chocolate. But what we're not taught is the amazing changes our bodies go throughout the entire menstrual cycle, how this impacts what we need nutritionally, emotionally, and socially, how the hormonal changes we experience during each of the phases impacts our productivity, our metabolism, our energy levels, our sexual desires, and so much more. We're not taught that there's a way to live in tune with our bodies that not only helps to reduce PMS symptoms, but will help you feel more at home in your bodies. So let's talk about it. A framework that a lot of research on menstruation utilizes is the seasons, where each of the 4 phases of the menstrual cycle are assigned a corresponding season that reflects the energy shifts we feel, as well as the foods that are in bloom during that season are recommended for that aligned phase. Let's start with menstruation, the phase that we're more familiar with. This can be viewed as our inner winter. This phase is the 3 to 7 days of bleeding where the uterine lining from the previous cycle is shed. During this phase, our hormone levels are at their lowest. This is going to cause a natural dip in our body temperatures, which makes consuming warmer foods ideal. During this time, it's really important to focus on rest and movements that are more restorative to the body. Something that I find really fascinating about menstruation is that this is a time when your 2 brain hemispheres have more communication, making your inner winter the optimal time for deep reflection, whether that's spending time reflecting on your relationships or your life goals. As winter transitions into spring, the body transitions from menstruation into the follicular phase. This phase is typically 7 to 10 days and is when estrogen levels begin rising. As hormone levels rise, your uterine lining is signaled to start growing again. You're going to feel more energized, creative, and motivated. This is a time when your metabolism is a bit lower, so it's encouraged to eat lighter foods. Eating foods such as broccoli, kale, and flax seeds during this phase help to ensure that as estrogen levels rise, it doesn't get backed up in the gut. Think of your inner spring as the perfect time to try new hobbies, start new projects, or tap into this sparked sense of creativity. After spring, we have our summer, which is our ovulation phase, typically lasting between 3 to 4 days. This is when our hormones are at their peak level. The verbal and social centers of the brain are stimulated during these hormonal changes, making your communication skills even better. During this time, it's important to focus on eating raw vegetables since this will help to flush out estrogen after it reaches its peak. Ovulation is also a time when you'll feel more inclined to socialize with others and you'll have higher energy levels, which make higher intensity workouts ideal. Finally, we reach the fall, which is our luteal phase. This tends to last 10 to 14 days and is a time when our hormones start dropping down and our energy levels begin dwindling. During your luteal phase, it's important to focus on fiber-rich foods that help support your large intestine as your digestion levels slow down. It's also important to incorporate complex carbs into your diet during your luteal phase because this helps to stabilize blood sugar levels as your hormones drastically drop. After fall, we go back into winter and the cycle repeats. How we show up for ourselves during each of the phases not only impacts the next phase, but impacts the symptoms we feel on our periods and our entire experience of the menstrual cycle. I highly encourage you all to learn more about the science behind all of these, because it's truly fascinating how slight changes to the foods we're eating, the workouts we're doing, and the activities we're spending our time on impact our bodies so much. I also think that in conversations like this, it's crucial that we reflect on our positionalities, or how our identities have impacted our experiences and how we have or have not been able to contribute to these conversations in the first place, which is why I think it's important to reflect on my role in this as well. I am someone who grew up with a debilitating menstrual cycle where I experienced severe cramps and menstrual pains, which was one of the reasons that I sought out birth control and was on it for several years. I'm not alone in this. In fact, a recent study discovered that 58% of birth control pill users were relying on it for reasons other than contraception alone. I am also someone who has experienced a lot of the negative effects of birth control, whether that was a depressed mood or other things. And I'm not alone in this either. A cross-sectional study exploring the effects of oral contraception found that 79% of users experienced negative effects, whether that was decreased libido or a depressed mood. Now, I also want to express how important and privileged it is that I have access to birth control. Not everyone has this privilege or the tools and resources to learn about menstruation and how to learn how to track and sync with your cycle. As a white woman, I will never experience the racism that continues to exist in the healthcare system that has caused racial gaps in diagnosing and treating health issues related to menstruation. I also want to reiterate the importance of having access to birth control, especially in an increasingly polarizing political climate where not having these options is not only severely harmful, but can even be deadly. Over this past year, I've been involved in a research study exploring the impacts of cycle syncing, where I utilized tools and technology that gave me scientific data and insights on my own cycle. I've met with some of the top researchers in this field and not only learned from them, but have applied their expertise to my life. During this study, I followed phase-specific recipes and workouts. I was wearing a glucose monitor to track how my blood sugar levels changed throughout the phases. I was peeing in a cup every day to check my fertility, checking my temperature every morning, tracking how my mood changes. After several months of implementing these methods of cycle tracking and syncing into my life, I was gained with so much more awareness of how my body changes throughout the phases. I was able to implement changes into my routines that allowed me to feel my best, whether that was adjusting the foods I was eating, the ways I was moving my body, or the things I was doing with my time. Now, I also want to reiterate how we don't have to follow every specific guideline of the recommended activities or foods or workouts, but that small changes can make a huge difference, especially because we have so many commitments in life, whether it's with work, family, and friends. but making small changes to our habits in relation to our cycle can still make a lasting impact. I have found that learning how to sync with my cycle has given me a love for myself, where I've learned how to show up for my body in a way that supports me and provides me with the understanding of why I am feeling the way I do every day. Implementing cycle syncing into your life can be small things. For example, it could be planning a big presentation around when you're going to be ovulating, since this is a time when you'll have great communication skills. Maybe it's scheduling a call with a loved one or starting a new hobby during your follicular phase when your social energy starts rising and you're more creative. Maybe it's saying no to plans during your luteal phase when your body craves more rest. Maybe it's setting up boundaries with your partner when you're menstruating. Or it could be as simple as reminding yourself that you're a cyclical being and it's normal to feel different every day. And to the men and non-menstruators listening, your role in this could be things like scheduling and planning activities with your menstruating friends during phases that align with where they are in their cycle. Maybe it's keeping menstrual products on you. It's creating a safe space for these conversations and being the ones to initiate them. This is how we break these fears together. It's not until all of us are part of these conversations until they can become normalized. What I challenge you all to do when you leave here today is bring this with you. Learn more about your own cycle. Talk about periods with your friends. Invest in menstrual health, whether that's with financially or your time or energy. Reimagine a world where we can all live in harmony with our bodies and do what you can do to fight for that. Thank you.